I'm with Depth Security. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jake.
Hello. So I'm a partner / principal consultant at Depth Security. We do excellent work regarding penetration tests, vulnerability tests, and web application security assessments, as well as a few select products that we know work because we use them ourselves. If you're not using us, you probably should talk to us. Shameless plug in. Today I'm going to talk about a tool that probably anyone that does pen tests or even network vulnerability assessments should be using, if not using some similar tool. There's a lot of tools that do DNS reconnaissance. So show of hands, who uses Kali out? Just curious. 1, 2, 3. Seriously? All right. Yeah. How many of you would consider yourselves one who does penetration assessments or vulnerability assessments on the either network or web app side? A few of you. Okay. Cool. So there's a lot of DNS reconnaissance tools, but it literally is one of the first places you start when you're given a target. Sometimes you get a range of network addresses and they provide that to you. Sometimes it's zero knowledge, right? And they say, you know the company name, that's it. Go find us, right? So one of the first things you're going to want to do is go, okay, I know your companyname.com, that's obvious. So let's go find out what networks are under your control, whether in-house or in the cloud or hosted third party or whatever, right? Kali comes with a bunch of them. DNS map, DNS recon, there's Metasploit modules that'll do it. And what I'm going to talk about today is a tool called Fierce. It's written by a guy named RSnake. RSnake kind of got pseudo-famous writing the XSS cheat sheet, which you can use to evade filters for injecting script and HTML into web applications. Fierce is cool because it does something the others I don't believe do. Back in the day, when people hosted their own DNS zones most of the time and thought they knew how to configure them, you could pretty much bet that zone transfer would be enabled on any given domain, which meant that you could literally go into NSLookup or use dig and then just dump the zone. And it'd give you everything from www, which you could guess, to mail 07946, right? You're going to get everything. And those are useful then to go on with your further port scans, vulnerability scans, etc. Nowadays, you see that a lot less. I still see zone transfer enabled probably 1 to 5% of the time. But you're kind of left with a couple techniques. You can do reverse lookups, which means I want to know what names are registered for this IP. But that's pretty rare too. A lot of people don't host reverse zones for their network space. And probably for good reason, right? The less information you can put out there public, the better. The other main method is dictionary attack, right? So I've got a list of common host names: www, mail, setup, dev1, dev99, whatever, right? And a lot of these tools will take a dictionary and run it against a given zone and show you which ones matched and what their IP addresses were. Fierce does that, as well as every time it finds one, so it finds www, it takes that IP address, goes up a certain number of IPs and down a certain number of IPs doing reverse lookups, which is cool because in the odd case that they do have reverse zones configured, you might get another several names out of it, so it's kind of cool. So this was like a last minute, 5-minute talk, so I don't know how long it'll go, but that's basically what I was going to talk about. It has a lot of options. That's showing up pretty good there, isn't it? Yeah. All right, cool. So I won't go over every one, but so connect is actually when you find a host name, go out there and connect on 80 and 443 and pull back the web server headers. Find out if it's Nginx or IIS50 or Apache 2, whatever. That's kind of useful, but it's slow, and you probably do better served using an nmap script for that. The default nmap scripts will do that. Delay will give you a given amount of delays between lookups. We're talking about running a dictionary attack, and a dictionary attack means mass volume, right? The default dictionary with Fierce has about 2,000 entries in it, and depending on how many threads you give it, it can be pretty brutal. So there's a delay, you can insert in between lookups. That's going to slow you down. -DNS is literally the domain name you want to look up, companyname.com. DNS file, you can provide a list of DNS servers. Sometimes when you're internal, it may not be apparent what DNS server is hosting a domain, or you may want to just force an override on what it would normally figure out what the authoritative DNS server is for a given domain. -DNS server is a way to specify domain servers that are authoritative for a given zone. Full output will dump everything it connects to a web server with, every header, not just the useful ones. Threads, obvious, right? You get one thread is single threaded, 100 threads is 100 threaded. So word list, by default, it'll use its own. You can give it a custom word list. So does anyone have a domain they want me to run this on? Because I'm just...
NSA.gov.
Does anyone have a domain with more than 3 letters and that's not
Healthcare.org.
So, I probably shouldn't have asked that question. I'm just going to go ahead and do
wansec.com.
wansec.com?
Yeah, I'm just curious what that'll show up.
So it has to match the dictionary. This will attempt a zone transfer, and then it'll attempt a dictionary attack, and then every single match on the dictionary attack, it'll go up 5 and down 5 IPs, looking for a reverse match.
Sweet.
So we're gonna try. 2280 is the dictionary length. Dub's obvious. Manage is a little less obvious. Relay is even less obvious.
Yeah, it's good domain out.
Localhost, we see that a lot. That's not going to help me, but
You should attack it.
I should attack it. Full bore. So that's pretty quick.
Everything there.
Was that it? So are there, I assume maybe potentially entries it's missing?
Yeah, those are pretty good.
That's pretty good though, right? I mean, just, it's a tool, I didn't even give it a custom dictionary, just idiot proof, right? So that's why I like it. It pulls down hosts that I put in a host file, and I do some more in-depth but still pretty cursory assessment on, like NIC2, right? A lot of people think, what do I care about names, right? Once I go ping www.companyname.com, I get their /24 on the internet, and I stop there and I go attack that /24. Well, what about web servers that listen to host headers? So you have one web server listening on one IP, but it's got 7 names it's listening to. And if you hit it with its IP, you may get anything from a forbidden response to a 404 to some other app. And if you're doing pen testing, you realize the day of the buffer overflow exploitable service that's just sitting there are less and less. The way we get mileage in pen tests is web apps. And that's anything from a custom web app with SQL injection that has XP command shell enabled on Microsoft SQL Server that I compromise and pivot, to a vulnerable JBoss instance that the actual management server for the app for JBoss is vulnerable, or Tomcat, or Cold Fusion, right? Tons of vulns in all these things, from default creds, misconfigured default configurations, to just flat out explicit configuration errors, right? Web apps are where we find hosts to pivot from and attack internal networks. It just is the way it is. So those names matter. I worry about IPs, but I want to know names, because in the case of host headers, you're going to miss a whole world of potentially exploitable code just because you stopped at IP address, right? I don't know. I got like 10 more minutes, or how much time do I have? Because I can just keep going.
Let's let the crowd decide.
Right.
Keep going.
All right, let's do Google.com.
Let's do Barley's.
I'll do that.
Are you happy with our system?
No.
Nothing.
Wait, were you a cop?
So look at that. So we got admin, apps, alerts, ads, academic, academic code, admin, AP, calendar, catalog, D, developers, dir, directory, DNS, docs, code, domains, downloads, earth, enterprise, Europe, feeds, games, etc., etc., etc.
Let's do SecKC.
I've got a quick question. Since this couldn't do its own transfer, obviously from the very beginning.
Yeah, never mind. Never mind.
2,280.
On
And
each,
then-
on each address.
On each address, and then every time that it finds one that's a valid lookup, it goes up 5 and does
Down five.
reverses.
So you're doing like several hundred thousand DNS queries.
Definitely noisy.
Where are you doing this from? Not from your VM here.
Right from my VM. I'm in bridge mode, right on the wireless network, and I'll tell you, maybe we have a biased sample on clients, but I've not had anyone call me and say, you're just killing our DNS server. So it's a, I don't know why, I mean, it's a huge indicator of attack when you have one IP performing a literal dictionary alphabetic attempt at
It's going to use your most local cache, your most local DNS server. It's not querying directly most likely.
yeah, whatever my DNS server is. I don't think it goes out. I'd look at the Perl code, but I think it actually uses the stacks DNS
Is it just
server.
matching on reverse DNS though? Because you said it goes up 5 and down 5.
Yeah, so it'll, okay, let's say it finds www.wansec.com at 1.1.1.1.
Several responses back to that IP address.
Yeah.
And does it go reverse match on each one?
For each IP, then it goes reverse, 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 reverse.
Okay.
And if it, if it finds something, then good. I don't know how, it doesn't really specify when it's a reverse or when it's a forward. So
Is that a configurable option?
not that I know of. That'd be cool though. But yeah, so barleys.com, I'm guessing, is that even a valid?
Yeah, you might want to check that.
Google it first.
Yeah. Not sure. There you go. He just, Mimi, he's just kidding. Mimi, he is totally.
We're just doing it.
Did I do something? Do you remember how that was spelled?
That's it. Yeah.
You'll find a dub and maybe a mail and whatever. The other thing this is great at is company says, here's my /22. Go ahead and attack it. And I say, is that all the IP addresses you have? Yeah. Well, they don't know about the Squarespace web app and the WordPress instance that's their blog site on Rackspace. That maybe they don't think it matters if I compromise it, but I do compromise it. I dump the hashes, crack them, and then I reuse them on Citrix or OA or whatever, SSL VPN. That stuff matters.
You got to do with it. Did the fully qualified domain. You put www.
Sorry, Gene.
Pierce is dumb sometimes.
So if you run this internally, I guess an internal DNS server, do you have a different approach?
I'll tell you, normally we find zone transfer enabled a hell of a lot more internally. Because in some versions of Windows, it was enabled by default, and it's literally a checkbox people can check. And people get busy troubleshooting some connectivity problem, they check it in random error, trial and error, and it stays on. Past that, it's still useful internally, even if it is disabled. Then it's the same technique, but I will say, zone transfer you can just dump with a Metasploit module, use that in your database, and connect to those things with a port scanner or whatever. Dub. FTP.
Is it anonymous?
And this is
Anonymous? Try it.
we can try.
Do it. They gave us authorization. We're just kidding. Do it. Yes. Woo! Come on.
The password's weird.
It was just a standard zone template. It's like.
Yeah.
So why'd you guys move to the beach?
Because we're at that semantic thing, man.
We're jurists. Can we do this?
See what happens?
It's a good thing he's not here. No, it doesn't count. He's not here. Thank you so much.
He's just not your lawyer.
That's a really good point. But I take his advice anyway.
FTP's not listening, 80 and 443 are, right? So just like you said, someone said it's a standard hosted setup system where it's throw some names out there, and whether or not you run FTP, it's your business.
That was a nice in-app option, by the way.
What's that?
That was a nice in-app option. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, oh, top ports. So I've got lots of time and random thoughts. So the in-map top ports project. Anyone familiar with that?
Yeah.
So what Fyodor, is that how you pronounce that guy's name?
Yeah.
The Nmap genius. He set up a whole internet scan where he scanned all 32 bits of IPv4 space, which is a lot. It's like 4 billion addresses. And he looked for ports, and he categorized in a database which were the most common, right? And obviously top ports. So there's some awesome stats though, some staggering statistics where if you give it 100 top ports, you're actually getting 92 or something like that, 92% of the entire internet. It's either 100 or 1,000. Yeah. Now, if you're normally scanning, you want thorough coverage. You're doing -P1-65535, all 16 bits of port space. It takes forever, you know.
Can you list those out for us?
You know what? That's one thing I've been searching for. If anyone knows that, let me know.
The top ports has got to be a text file under user shared map or something like that.
It's got to be. I haven't looked that deep, but I went online, Googled it. I couldn't find any like list of the top ports. I'm sure there are. The guy wants them. I'm sure he wants the info out there, but I'd like to use that in other tools.
You could scan. Can you scan me.internet though with top ports and return all those?
Yeah, or I could fire up like anyone use Egress Buster. Once you bust into something with a limited shell, you want to find out what comes out, and it's just a generic Python client and server. You can fire it. Yeah, you could do that and it would find out. You know, while I'm on the subject of things that aren't fierce, another cool initial step to do in a pen test, when you have a bunch of address space and you just want results because you're on time limit or whatever, or because you're impatient, you want instant gratification like I do. Anyone use Nick2? Yeah. All right. So Nick2 is a real simple web application. They call it a scanner. It's really not parsing the web app for forms and pages and parameters and fuzzing each one like a true web app scanner is. It's got a list of a few thousand URLs that it checks, that it knows. If it finds this /manager, that's Tomcat, or /cf-ide, that's Cold Fusion, right? And it's just a real quick way of finding out, is there some low-hanging fruit on this server? And it isn't going to get you anywhere if you feed it one IP. But if you feed it 1,000 live addresses with web services listening, one of those is going to be problematic, right? And it's just a great way of weeding out a lot of hosts and services and finding that one thing you want to pick at, right? You get your pivot host. So it takes in that grepable output, which is really handy. So I can literally, what are we, 10.192.192 here? 10.192.192/24. So we'll do, look for 80, only list open ports. Oops, NAMP.
Audio feature and
10.192.192.0.24. T5, timing is 5, that's the fastest timing you can get. All the T. Only open ports. -OG is output greppable. -pipe NIC2 -H dash. So this will scan all 254 host addresses for port 80, only list the open ones, and feed it over to NIC2. NIC2 will then go do its thing on each one, and it's slow, but I just let it run. So NIC2, here we go, right? Host IP 80, here's the server, HTTPD. .1 is obviously our gateway. While that's going, I get impatient.
That'll be the register.
And it's Linksys WRT 300N, right? All right, someone said admin.
I think it's admin.
Admin blank. Oh, that's so sad, right?
You guys are picky. 2 Ds, 1 D,
Whatever it takes.
yeah. All the Ds.
Just brute force it.
Yeah.
We're still talking about computers. We should probably, before you go to the jail.
Yeah, all right, yes. I agree with Bill. Before you end up in jail,
All right. Peace.
Great job. All right, next up is Nate from Depth. I'm not sure of the talk. That's how